I'm Gretchen Castle, General Secretary of Friends World Committee for Consultation, and I want to thank you for joining us for this FWCC video where we're discussing different ways of Quaker worship. As you may know, Quakers around the world enjoy many different forms of worship. It's true for any global communion. Theological diversity exists in each of the 4 sections, and I want to read this paragraph to you. Every section contains unprogrammed, programmed, and evangelical friends, and some combinations. For example, Northern Ireland identifies as evangelical, unprogrammed. There are also conservative friends in the Americas, with a couple of conservative meetings in other parts of the world. Many people here in Europe think that any programmed church is an evangelical church, even though they are distinctive both in worship and in history. And some forms of worship don't fit easily into one description, such as in India, where they integrate several different worship traditions. And so today we have the great pleasure of having friends join us from the sections. And I will ask each of you to introduce yourselves first, telling us who you are and how you are connected to FWCC and to your section. Annie?
My name is Annie Janssen, and although I sound like I come from the section of the Americas, I'm actually here as part of EMES, the European and Middle East section. I live in Munich. I came to Quakerism actually originally in London, so within the European framework. And so that's my orientation here.
Thank you. Bainito?
My name is Bainito Wamalwa. I have a pleasure and happy to join the rest of friends from around the world to be able to speak about the different types of worship. I'm a member of East Africa Yearly Meeting of Friends North, which is a member of FWCC, and I'm connected with FWCC as a clerk of the section. Thank you so much. Feel welcome.
Thank you, Bainito. David?
Hi, I'm David Schneider. I'm joining you from Chicago in the US. I'm the clerk of the section in the Americas. Came to FWCC about almost 20 years ago. My wife was selected as a representative to FWCC from Illinois Yearly Meeting, which is my yearly meeting, and I tagged along, and lo and behold, all these years later, I've become clerk of the section. So very good to be with friends from around the world.
Thank you, David. And Devdas, if you can unmute yourself, we'll be happy to hear your introduction of who you are and how you're connected to FWCC and to your section.
I'm Devdas from Bhopal Yearly Meeting, that is in India. And I am a convinced Quaker. I am not a born Quaker. So I am a member of Bhopal Yearly Meeting. And since 1984, I am associated with the work of the section. Then also for some time with the FWCC. And presently, I am looking the Friend schools in Hoshangabad districts. So I am a chairperson of those schools. And yeah, that's all.
Good. Thank you, Devdas. It's great to have you here from the Asia West Pacific section.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd like to start with the first question. And here's the question. What types of worship might a person experience within your section? And is there a predominant form of worship? Annie?
Well, the European and Middle East section may well be the least diverse section in FWCC. I think that's quite likely. We certainly have a predominant form, which is unprogrammed worship. And, but there are a couple of exceptions. And that is, for instance, in Eastern Europe, there is a concentration of evangelical friends in Hungary and Serbia and Romania. Estimates vary from a few hundred to a few thousand, so I'm not really sure what numbers we're talking about. But they are evangelical, and they do consider themselves missionary. They take their mission to the Roma people, and they also have connections in Africa where they do good works. So they definitely represent that side, and have, of course, programmed meetings and pastors. Then we have another exception, which is in Northern Ireland, where the Friends identify, they call themselves evangelical, but actually they have unprogrammed worship. So they're a little bit of an exception to the more general rule. But other than that, we are talking unprogrammed worship in all the places that you find Quakers within Europe and the Middle East.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Annie. Bainito, how about you? What's it like in your section?
Yeah, I want to say, feel welcome to Africa section. Africa section has different types of worship, and we have the both programmed evangelical and non-evangelical, which is a orientation of Friends United meeting. Also, we have unprogrammed meeting in Africa. Most programmed meetings are both in East and Central Africa, where we have the predominant evangelicals are in the East, in Central Africa, and the East Africa is occupied by programmed with Friends United meeting orientation. We have unprogrammed meetings in both West Africa and Southern Africa. In West Africa and parts of Congo, we have Kinshasa monthly meeting, which is unprogrammed worship, and we have Hill House in Ghana, which is also a programmed meeting in West Africa. And that's what we have so far. In East Africa, particularly in Kenya and Kenya, and East Africa is predominantly programmed. We have a very slight difference between the programmed evangelicals and programmed Friends United meeting in African context. Thank you so much. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. David?
Through the section, the Americas, we have a pretty wide diversity of types of worship. The diversity can be found particularly in the United States, where we have everything from entirely unprogrammed meetings to entirely programmed evangelical churches. The evangelical Friends tend to refer themselves as Friends churches, and the unprogrammed largely as Quaker meetings, sometimes Friends meetings. And there's a great range in between, including conservative Friends, which you mentioned earlier, Gretchen, which are unprogrammed but more Christ-centered than liberal unprogrammed meetings. In the US, there's no type that predominates, but throughout the section, programmed worship, particularly evangelical worship, does predominate because the meetings south of the border of the US, there are very, very few unprogrammed meetings and only one of any particular size. The others are worship groups. But in Bolivia and Guatemala, which have the largest concentration of Friends in the Americas other than the US, almost entirely programmed and usually evangelical meetings. And in Canada, as far as I know, sometimes you find out something new that you hadn't known before, but as far as I know, that in Canada, it's entirely liberal unprogrammed meetings. In the US, there's none that's the majority. There's quite kind of a wide diversity, and even beyond those four categories of liberal unprogrammed, conservative unprogrammed, pastoral, and evangelical, there were a few other meetings or churches that wouldn't actually fall into any of those categories, or they wouldn't see themselves in that way. So quite a bit of theological diversity here.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And of course, the United States is where a lot of those shifts really happened, and where a lot of the organizations exist that have those distinctions. Yeah. Thank you, David. Devdas, what's it like in AWPS in Asia West Pacific?
So in Asia West Pacific section is a very vast section. Particularly in Australia and New Zealand, we have silent worship meetings, unprogrammed worship meetings are there. But in Asian countries, particularly in India, we almost now we have programmed worship meetings. Although we do not have any priest or pastor in our churches or meeting houses, but even then, we have program worship meeting. Every Sunday, someone is asked to lead the worship meeting. One Sunday, we give for the young friends to lead the worship meeting. And one Sunday, we call it an open worship meeting, where everybody is, whosoever is inspired during the worship meeting, he or she can lead the worship meeting, but almost a program worship meeting.
Yeah. Thank you. And you have evangelical friends in the Philippines and
Yeah.
yeah.
So they are all program worship. Yeah.
So you have, as all sections do, quite a variety. There's variety in all sections.
Yes.
And a big part of the work of FWCC and of the sections is to help people understand what some of those differences are and to celebrate our variety, our diversity. It's really a gift to us.